live from Fox 5. Welcome to the News Block.
And here are the top stories on the News Block today. Terrifying moments in the Bronx. Take a look at that. Part of a NYCHA building collapsing into a pile of rubble. We are live on the scene with the very latest on this. And billions of dollars in funding for the 2nd Avenue subway and the Hudson River Tunnel project now in jeopardy as the Trump administration puts that money on hold. And with a government shutdown now underway, lawmakers in Washington appear no closer to striking a deal. We will have the latest on the negotiations. And then there is some good news here, the weather. It's feeling a little bit like fall as the temperatures start to drop, but we still got some summer temps on the way. We're going to have a check of the forecast to see if that cooler weather is going to last, and if so, how long. Good afternoon. I'm Linda Schmidt. Thanks for joining us today for the News Block. Now, we begin with that breaking news in the Bronx. This is something else. Officials say it was an incinerator shaft on the corner of a high-rise building that came crashing down, bringing part of the facade down with it. Now, this video here shows the moments when the shaft came crashing down in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx. People in the buildings nearby, they were watching in shock as it fell. We have team coverage with Arthur Sheehan and Antwan Lewis on the scene. They have been there for hours now. Arthur, we're going to start with you. What have you learned so far?
Well, we've learned that this came from the boiler room. That's where the explosion originated, and that was what was directly below that chimney stack that you've been showing that came down. We're standing on Alexander Avenue here at 137th Street, very much of a lockdown scene, not just for cars, but for pedestrians as well. Now, people live here tell us they heard two things. The first was a boom that they describe as an explosion. They said there was a pause about 3 seconds, and all of a sudden the building was shaking as if it were to collapse. Let's go back to that video that we have been, that Linda was showing you, which is what was happening with the chimney stack when people inside the building felt their building shake, all of it coming crashing down. This is a 20-story building with over 170 apartments, and given how tall that chimney was above the building, it actually, parts of it crashed more than 20 stories below. Now, people ran for their lives down the stairs. Emergency units came flying and searching for people to see if they were trapped, or worse, they used cadaver dogs. They went over surveillance video, but in what is being described as a miracle out here by people who live here and city officials is the fact that there's not a single injury as a result of this. Kids were already in school, and we just can't imagine how it would have been different. But the building was evacuated, and buildings department investigators have been going from floor to floor, checking for cracks to assess the structural integrity of the building. Now, 2 rows of apartments lining the chimney are a key concern. That's more than 40 apartments there, and city officials pointing out today that October 1st today makes it the day that heat is turned on in city buildings. And they also confirmed to Fox 5 that work was being done on the boiler currently, which is at, as I said, the base of that chimney where it collapsed. We spoke with the city's Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Kaz Daughtry, who told us someone from NYCHA was actually in the boiler room when this explosion went off.
That there was a NYCHA representative down there that was starting the boiler, and it seemed like when he turned on the boiler, which is preliminary, this is still under investigation, this is very, very, very preliminary, that there was some sort of malfunction when the boiler was turned on that caused this accident behind us.
Somebody was downstairs in the boiler when this ignited and got a sense that it was time to get out?
That they heard the explosion, and immediately the person ran for cover, ran out of the building as it would happen, and then when he went, seeing what happened outside, and obviously there was a multiple 911 calls that came in.
Now, a lot of residents are out here right now waiting to see if they can go in either to retrieve their belongings or to just go back into their apartments and resume their lives. You might hear a buzzing sound behind me. That's some heavy equipment that's been coming in. One of the main walls is still there. They're going to have to knock that down, and that brick is connected to the building, so they're going to have to do it very carefully. How long that takes, nobody knows. And one final point, Linda, this building, the boiler supplies the heat for everybody in this NYCHA complex. 3 massive buildings on this side and more on that side, which means heat and hot water for the time being interrupted to everybody inside this massive complex. The city's also working on seeing how they can get that reconnected and back up and running for for the people who live out here. That's the latest from this side of the building in Mott Haven in the Bronx. Arthur Gian, Fox 5 News. Linda, back to you.
Arthur, that is something else. Talk about lucky today. All right, now we're going to bring in Antwan Lewis, who has been talking to residents of the Mitchell houses. Antwan, I mean, Arthur said it. It is a miracle that nobody was either seriously injured or worse, killed.
A couple of things, Linda. First, just listening to what Arthur said. Now, we spoke with Commissioner Ipsco. He told us that they were bringing in a portable boiler because the gas is still turned off. So I didn't get a chance to let Arthur know that, but we literally found that out maybe about 5 minutes ago. Your other point that you raised, Ms. Schmidt, is the fact that no one was injured. You're absolutely right, because they searched the debris, that collapse zone on the back side of the building where this happened. They searched that with dogs just to make sure that in that debris where there was bricks, there was parts of the cement, there were air conditioners that all collapsed when that thing fell. They wanted to make sure that there were no bodies, no persons that were also in that debris, possibly. But let's show you some video, because gas has been turned off to the building, as Arthur mentioned. Now, this is the Mitchell Houses campus where it's been impacted by this. Tenants in the F and G apartment lines were most affected when the partial collapse took place. Now, they will be temporarily housed in hotels for the next few days until officials say that they can go back into their apartment units. Everyone else right now is being allowed in. Now, the Mitchell Community Center, which is where I am, is now a processing facility where the Red Cross is working with NYCHA to coordinate the temporary housing as well as food vouchers that are being given for the affected residents. Residents that we spoke with who described to us the very serious moments from this morning.
You start to see smoke. People is like standing down. They're going like this. They're like, get out. The building is collapsing. So instantly, I took my 3-month-old, panicked a little bit, see everybody, they're rushing out. You got to take the stairs. You don't want to take the elevator.
Tell me what it sounded like.
It's like a bomb. And then when you try to look for it out the window, all you see this light, this smoke, can't see nothing. That is scary. That is very scary.
I don't want to go inside there no more, because that little boom is inside here. I can forget that, and it's like panic attack. I don't want to go inside the building no more.
As you come back to us live, Linda, we want to bring in Frederick from the Red Cross, who just graciously said he would answer a quick question real quick. Food was just brought in. Frederick, bring us up to speed with what's going on inside.
Yeah, so right now we have a lot of wonderful community partners that have stepped up to help neighbors during their time of need. They're bringing in meals. We've had lunch. They're giving out food right now. We'll have dinner later. Just trying to make sure that people are taken care of while they're displaced from their homes and while they're trying to figure out what their next steps are.
One last question before you. I know other people are trying to get to you. How are they? What's the mood inside, if you will? It's tremendous shock, I would imagine, at least from the people we spoke with.
Yeah, I think that people were woken up this morning in a very difficult time. So obviously nerves are a little frayed. But all things considered, I think people's spirits are pretty high. It seems like a very strong community. People are very tight-knit. And I think people have a little bit of hope as they're getting on their path to recovery.
Frederick, we know you're busy. Thank you so much for talking to us. Very nice to meet you. Also, Linda, we're talking about, as far as the F and G lines go, about 40 units. We understand that those residents, again, are the ones that will be temporarily housed. So those are the ones who are mostly inside here. But again, with the gas and the hot water and the electricity off right now, again, anyone who needs a hot meal is being treated to that here. As far as when those can come back on, officials are telling us they hope to have that restored, the services restored within the next possibly 24 to 48 hours, so somewhere in that time frame. But this is the very latest that we have from you from where we are here in the Bronx. We'll send things now back inside to you.
All right, Antwan, thanks so much. And right now we actually have the Commissioner of the New York City Emergency Management, Zach Iscol. He's joining us here now with the latest on this investigation and what this partial collapse means. Okay, now number one, both Arthur and Antwan were talking about the fact that it came from the boiler room. What does that say to you that that's the origin of this?
Yeah. So, look, there's still an investigation that needs to take place to sort of understand exactly what happens. What we suspect is that there was an issue in the boiler room, some sort of gas leak of some sort, not exactly sure what the cause is, and that entered into what was actually the boiler. There's a chimney that attaches to the boiler room where the boiler exhaust leaves from. That looks like where the issue was. We've had engineers in the building all day. The safety of the residents is really what is of our primary concern, making sure that there are no structural issues with the building or with those units.
Well, one thing that really is interesting to me about looking at that video, first of all, it looks catastrophic, but there's no damage to any of the apartments. It's strictly that shaft.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's correct. And so, first off, our responders, FDNY, NYPD, our team did a really remarkable job with the initial response. Very, very fortunate that nobody was hurt. Somebody could have just been walking by when that collapse happened. So very lucky on that front. We've now shifted over the last few hours to what we call recovery and response operations, right? How do we restore gas, electricity, heat, and hot water to that building and to the adjacent properties that have been impacted by the lack of utilities right now that we'd had to shut off.
And we also heard Antwan talking about the evacuation of some of the folks there in the building. How many people have been evacuated, and how long are they going to be kept outside of their apartments?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we opened up a reception center across the street. This is Mitchell Houses. There's a Mitchell House Community Center across the street where we have a reception center with our partners at NYCHA and the Red Cross. In the two sort of lines of apartments that are impacted, what we call the G and F lines, it's about 40 units. I think there's about 170, 174 units in the building. Most of the building is reoccupied. It's just those lines that we're concerned with as we're doing some additional demolition and some additional work on the building.
I mean, it's incredible. When you look at that video, I mean, you've got the destruction on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you have air conditioners hanging out of, attached to the windows there, and the apartments are not impacted at all.
Yeah. Well, the chimney is not structural, right? And that's really where the impact was. And again, we have engineers, structural engineers, building engineers who are going into the basement, the roof of the building, and all of those apartments to assess any structural impacts, but none have been found so far.
And Commissioner, what about getting that heat, the hot water, and the gas restored to the building? What are we looking at with that?
So right now, there's a lot of work that needs to get out. We need to remove the debris. There's some work that needs to go into the basement. We're bringing in a mobile boiler. We're working very closely with Con Ed to restore gas to all the adjacent buildings. We have to shut gas off for the response. So a lot of great work being done by our partners at Con Ed, NYCHA, Buildings Department, and others. And it's really remarkable. I mean, I've been up there all day seeing these teams work, seeing the men and women, the way that they show care for the community, the work that they're doing, folks like the Red Cross to make sure we're taking care of folks, addressing the safety issues, but getting people back in their apartments as soon as possible as well.
And then where do people go right now if they do need help?
So we encourage it. So first off, most of the folks there have been reached by NYCHA, by the Red Cross. We opened up this reception center across the street. I left there just about 45 minutes ago. There's a lot of people there. We're sharing news and information. NYCHA has a hotline as well that people can call or that they're pushing information out from. So we're getting a lot of information out to the community. The 40 units, we're putting those folks up in hotels for a couple days.
Okay.
But really, that's just so we can do the work on the demolition of what the remnants are of that chimney, so we can take that down and not impact people while they're in their apartments. So they'll be going into hotels for the next few days, and then hopefully we'll be able to get everything restored once that demolition work is done.
Okay. Well, Commissioners, thanks so much for coming in. We really appreciate it. I mean, it's just shocking, though, when you look at that video. Thank God nobody was injured or killed. But
absolutely.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me here.
Appreciate it. And, of course, we're going to bring you the very latest details on the collapse on the 5 and 6 o'clock news. You can also check for updates anytime using the free Fox Local app. Okay, we're going to shift gears right now and get a check on the weather. As you can see, another gorgeous shot there of lower Manhattan, One World Trade. The sky is looking pretty clear. Meteorologist Audrey Puente is here now with the first look at the forecast. Hi, Audrey. And the temperatures are, people are talking about fall, but it's still a gorgeous day out there.
Yeah, well, we don't have that fall chill to go with all that sunshine, Linda. When you stepped out the door this morning, we had readings in the 50s in many spots, 40s north and west. But right now, with all that sun, we've warmed it up to 69 degrees out in Central Park, as well as LaGuardia, and even down towards Atlantic City. So we have this cool pocket of air that has worked its way down into the northeast and all the way down towards the mid-Atlantic. Warmer air is sitting off towards our west here from the Canadian border all the way down towards the southern states. Now for Thursday, we're expecting that cold pocket of air to expand further southward into the southeastern states. Here in the tri-state area, we can expect another day with temperatures that are a little bit below normal for this time of year, but still feeling quite fall-like across the region. So the National Weather Service has also issued a couple the frost advisories for the county shaded in light blue here. That's into northeast Pennsylvania as well as over towards Sullivan County. And we also have a freeze warning for Ulster County overnight. Temperatures will fall even further for the morning lows, more so than we did this morning. So tomorrow morning, you want to make sure that all of your tender vegetation or plants are indoors so they don't get killed by any frost overnight. Yankees playing tonight, big game. We have very comfortable conditions, but a bit cooler than it was last night at the stadium. We're expecting clear skies and temperatures mostly in the 60s. Linda?
It's still a great night for baseball.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Audrey.